Welcome to our third episode.
Welcome to Autism Inside Out. My name is Amber. I'll be your autistic co-host.
And I'm Christy. I'm your neurotypical, mostly neurotypical, I mean, you know, co-host. Normally. And I am married to somebody with autism, so that's kind of where I come in to talk to everybody.
I am not married to anyone.
Okay. Also valid. Also totally
Just
valid. You don't have to, you don't have to be married to anybody to be here. We promise. Woo.
Tonight we're talking about...
Yeah, he threw me off. It's like what's
meltdowns, burnouts, and rejection-sensitive dysphoria.
Yeah, so I know that rejection-sensitive dysphoria is something that more than just autists, deal with. But I do know that sometimes it is more severe in your case, like cases, or at least being able to deal with it or voice it.
And we will go into definitions once we get to topics.
Yes. So once again, we wanted to just say that if you are a returner, thank you for coming back. And if you have any questions or anything that's come up since the last episode, please feel free to put them in there. We don't mind circling back. Since we did talk about that last time, but not everybody's going to tune in every episode.
Same with this episode. If we're talking about something and then it seems like we've moved on, you're like, oh, wait, but I have something about that I just thought of. Put it in the chat. We'll circle back. No problem.
So I did, Amber had sent me this article, and I am going to pull it up, and I'll just probably read through it, and we'll talk as we go.
Do you want me to throw a link in the chat?
Sure. Amber will throw a link in the chat for anybody who wants to bring it up later or is interested. So let me just share. I'm just going to start reading here. This is all about, like I said, if we could scroll back up, I guess. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria. This is Talkspace, which, if you don't know, is an online therapy tool that some people use. We're not affiliated with them, but it has some good articles sometimes about things that are coming in the psychology world. So I'll just start reading. It says, no one likes rejection. It doesn't matter if it comes from friends, family, or coworkers or a crush. While some people can move on from rejection easily, others find the feeling excruciating. So much so that it triggers an overwhelming emotional response. Those who have a more painful reaction to rejection may be experiencing rejection-sensitive dysphoria, known as RSD, characterized by extreme emotional sensitivity to being criticized or rejected. It can even occur when no rejection has taken place. So just from that, we'll start kind of chatting. Is this something that you suffer from?
Sure is. Sure is. So when I was thinking about topics for this week, I've got a list of a ton of things, but I wanted to do meltdowns and burnout and kind of the difference between those and understanding those. And a lot of that can come from having, I don't want to say unwarranted because all feelings are valid, but a stronger emotional reaction to real or perceived rejection or failures. And I had the feeling that was a fairly common autism trait. So I had posted in one of the adult autism groups that I'm in, asking if other people could relate to that, or being a perfectionist and like always feeling like you have to try harder than everybody else. And a lot of people said that they felt that way as well. And then someone had sent me this link that we posted to this article. And I have heard this term before, this rejection-sensitive dysphoria. And when I heard it the first time, I was like, oh, yeah, that's totally me. And then also because I'm me, I promptly forgot what the name of it was. So I definitely had to thank the person that sent that article, because I was like, yes, yeah, that's absolutely what I was thinking of, and I just couldn't remember the name.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always been really sensitive to any sort of real or perceived rejections or failures. All right, Valkyrie feels that way too. Thank goodness I'm not the only one. It's always nice to know that there's other people out there.
Right. I think that's part of the discussions that we're hoping to bring to people, is just that idea that not everybody fits in, but there's a lot of people that have similar issues with a lot of the same things as you do.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Reckless feels about that. Brian, my husband, it's something I deal with somewhat too.
Yeah, I didn't even ask you about, but with anxiety and just if that's...
I think to me it has more to do with who is saying it.
Sure.
Is it somebody that I look up to or respect? Then I feel very much like, oh no, I messed up and this isn't okay. I don't know the best way to voice it, but I'm one of those people, I'll keep thinking about it over and over. And I should have reacted this way, or I should have done this, or, but because I do struggle with anxiety, I try to use those same things to say, okay, now there's nothing you can do about it. Is it something that I did actually do wrong and I need to apologize for? Or is it just because I'm having a moment?
Sure. To have that issue, whether it's people I know or don't know, or even if no rejection has actually happened and it's all in my head.
So Moira says, as a child, a young adult, the fear of rejection was so great. You'd have conversations in your head going through all the outcomes until you've proven yourself I'd be rejected by someone and not considered a positive outcome.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've had issues like that as well with anxiety. I would definitely think of the same thing, but I do think that I probably have the ability to get past it easier than maybe you do. But
yeah,
you can explain that.
I believe the term for that, if I'm remembering my psych classes from a very long time ago, is catastrophizing.
Okay.
Which I may be pronouncing wrong. I can spell it better than I can say it.
Yeah, I mean, I think catastrophizing it seems like the best version of those letters.
You're looking at every possible way it could go wrong and no ways that it could go right.
So when you do that, have you accepted the rejection? Like the rejection happened?
It's coming. It's just going to be a surprise how.
Okay. So you're
I know it's going to be bad, but what flavor of bad will it be?
So you're, in essence, trying to figure out what version of bad it is going to be and prepare yourself for that?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Real briefly, yeah. It's Asperger's with the BER, AS. But autism, they are similar. They are all on the same spectrum. And yeah, and a lot of countries don't have adult autism diagnoses or therapy at this point. So Asperger's is now considered an autism spectrum disorder, part of the ASD. And there's different terms now, like high functioning, which people don't really like to talk about because it doesn't associate the help that people need.
Mm-hmm. It basically tells how much of a
nonverbal
imposition you are in society as opposed to how you actually function. And this varies by country as well. Some of the groups I'm in are primarily, a lot of them seem based in the UK, and we are in the US. So I end up learning a lot of the overseas terminology, and I know their ratings and diagnoses are a little different.
Yeah, and a lot of people use neurodivergent right now, but that also does bring in things like ADHD, dyslexia, and other mental differences that aren't deemed as bad or needing to be fixed. Now, Moira, I have a question for you. When you think about all those bad things, do you take it as the rejection? Like I was talking to Amber and I said, have you like already accepted that you're going to be rejected? Or is there a hope still that you won't be if you figure out what rejection is going to happen too? You know, because I'm always curious in how different people perceive the same problems.
Sure. Yeah, because I can really only truly
time.
bring my perspective. Like, I obviously don't speak for all autistic people. I speak for me, and, you know, I've seen some consensus in the autism groups that I'm in. And I have some autistic friends, and I'll run things by them. But, yeah.
And, you know, Reckless, feel free to let us know how you handle this as well, being if you have issues with rejection or not, because like I said, everybody is a little bit different. And as somebody with anxiety, I often will play these things or play it out after the fact.
Sure.
Like, oh, I should have done this, or I should have said that. I can't believe they said this. Mm-hmm. When most likely they've already moved on from that.
True. You know? Yeah, like they're not still dwelling on it while you're still wallowing in panic. And
I might even say something to my husband and be like, oh no, this is what he's going to be thinking about later. And he'll be like, what conversation did we have? I don't even remember. Moira, back then I wouldn't even talk to them or believe they would want to talk to me. Okay. So I could see that a lot with Reckless, the lack of, like, I don't want to be bad at something, so maybe I just won't do it.
Yep.
Or avoiding doing something until the last minute and then, like, pressuring through, like, in school, like, the conversation. What did you do last night? This? Homework or different something else? Oh, that one. Yeah. I couldn't remember what. No. If you meant something else.
No.
I thought you meant more homework-based.
No.
And research.
So I don't remember what part of the article it's in, and I did only read through the article like 1.5 times, so I'm not an expert on it. But
and we can keep going. But
I know there's a part in there that talks about it being related to possibly genetics, but also possibly early life trauma. And I know, like, I was constantly rejected by my peers as a kid. Because being on the spectrum and, you know, not knowing it wasn't even a spectrum back then. It was not something that was ever really talked about, especially
do you need a special school or not?
Right.
Yes.
Right. And because my IQ was relatively high, you know, I didn't have educational deficits, so it was whatever. But yeah, I was always rejected by my peers. So I can't say for sure if it's whether or not that played into it, but it certainly could have.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed like whenever I made a friend in school, it was always like whenever a new kid started in school, I'd try and be nice to them, and they'd be friends with me until someone better came along. And then they would just like immediately quit talking to me. And that happened over and over and over and over. And so now it's like, well, why even bother talking to people? Because they're just going to put up with me until they get a better offer. Thank you for still putting up with me.
Oh, you're not a stepping stone friend for me. No.
Be a real slow step at this point.
Oh my God. Yeah, I like to take my stepping stone friends for like 30 years and then I'll move on.
All right, cool. So I've got like 10 years left.
So to me, like, I find that I give a lot in a friendship and then I get people who just don't ever come back and like listen to what I have to say. So to me, it's a little bit different. And anybody who respects what I have to say and checks in on me even just to make sure I'm okay. Right. I feel like that person's a friend. Like, I'm good with that.
You can't do all the work.
Right. And I think that is more what I focus on. But when I was younger, I might have been one of those stepping stone people because we moved a lot.
Sure.
So making new friends was important to me. I was never a cool kid, but I pretty much made friends pretty quick and I kept those friends, but then I would leave. So that's kind of hard to tell maybe that's why I like really latched on to you. Right. Like, you can't get away from me.
Good.
Okay. I walked the playground alone as a kid.
Yes. I always, because technology hadn't been invented yet, I always had books on me because I knew no one wanted to talk to me. No one wanted to play with me. So I had books and that was my escape and that was all I needed.
Yeah, and
which is probably why I prefer fiction to relationships in real life now.
yeah, that
because
might be.
it's just easier and more satisfying. I don't know.
We're gonna
Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay. See, okay, you have RSD related to your anxiety. Yeah, 10 minutes time something. Oh, of course. You know, the thing is if I'm sure there's so many autistic,
we still love you.
We do. Autistic people that have anxiety also. And when those two things combine, I feel like it can be a perfect storm because you have now given your brain the ability to think of all these terrible outcomes. And there's no relief from that. It just keeps cycling and cycling to how bad it is, or if I put this wrong or say this wrong. Whereas a neurotypical person, I might think that and then think, meh, I don't care, and put it out there anyway, and not, be like, if these people don't know me, I'm just gonna try to be funny and not be funny and look ridiculous. But I definitely differ when it comes to like parental units, police officers, because I'm petrified of them, and kind of, authority figures.
Sure.
So that's really where I can come in. But I do know that some people I could see self-sabotage. And I'm wondering if any of you guys self-sabotage, especially in relationships, like closer, like they're getting too close for comfort.
Sure.
So you self-sabotage those close relationships to not have to deal with it, whether it be friends or relationships. Sure. Hello, Tender Flaps, and thank you for following. So we're just talking about rejection sensitivity dysphoria and how that affects people with autism, and if anybody suffers from that. So
it's nice to know there's other lonely playground kids. Where were y'all when I was in school? We could have hung out.
I know, you guys could like walk in circles around the monkey bars together.
We could be lonely nerds together.
Oh, you could have a little crew.
I know.
Yeah, I was talking, to the kiddo the other day, and I asked if they had like a whole like femboy gang at school, and they were like, a femboy gang, and I'm like, yeah, don't they like?
Isn't that what they're into? I feel like that's what your kid's into, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I said, they could really kind of just dance up and down the halls at your high school. This would be awesome. Right. So now, you guys can create like the lone walkers group. You'd be.
Made me think of walking down.
But you guys are so smart. I just don't. And all of you are such nice people. Like I've never met somebody on the spectrum that I just didn't like love, because I love like the authenticity and the honesty, and you're
in different perspectives.
mostly unashamedly who you are.
When we're not masking.
Yeah, when you're not masking, which requires, of course, getting to know each and every one of you, which I'm happy to do. Okay, so I'm going to keep reading this, and it says, what is rejection-sensitive dysphoria? For those who experience rejection-sensitive dysphoria, normal life experiences such as rejection, criticism, or failure simply become too much to bear. Their responses are much more severe than would be typically expected and can be restricting, difficult to manage, and affect quality of life. Sometimes this complete dread of rejection will fuel a person to work hard to be universally liked, or they may avoid situations where they could be hurt emotionally. RSD can also negatively impact relationships. The belief that what you are being or will be rejected becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is kind of what I had mentioned, is that we start to, like, you'd go into a relationship, and if you really like them, it's easier to push them away than to be honest about who you are. So I don't know if anybody out there has experienced that, if you've experienced that.
Not really, not consciously, at least not in romantic relationships.
Okay.
I don't know. I do tend to lose interest in relationships in romantic relationships pretty quickly. But I do think that I probably am aromantic, so I don't know how much of, because just like the idea of romance is not something that really appeals to me.
Yeah, relationships in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd rather just be in platonic relationships with my friends, and that's, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I would say when I was younger, I definitely did this, especially high school aged. Like what Moira's saying, that, you know, you go in kind of closed off and thinking that if they don't really know you, and maybe this is just me, if they don't really know me, I have like that back of my head. Well, of course they didn't want to be with me. They didn't really know me. So they couldn't have judged me.
I do want to go back to Tender Flips real quick. And yes, it is incredibly hard to get a diagnosis if you're transgender or non-binary. Yeah. I don't know why it took so long for my brain to parse out what you were asking. So I first read that, I'm like, the words weren't clicking in my head. And I'm like, I want it. And then it
and
like,
you're finishing what we were saying. So absolutely.
Yeah, that definitely is going to make it a lot harder.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why is it harder? Because
the medical system in general caters to straight white males, whether that's mental health, physical health. That's what all the studies are done on. That's what all the diagnostic criteria is for. They don't even bother looking at women, everything. Like,
for a long time, it was just other doctors dealing with doctors that were all straight white men. Because that was, for a long time, that's how it was. That was
the ruling class, and so whatever they say goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you don't want to.
That too.
You don't want to go in as somebody who's already outside the norm or outside of the people who are in charge, and then ask, for other issues, and then look even crazier, let's say, because, I am disabled. I have a genetic disease that causes my, tendons and stuff to be too loose. Yeah, but going into like a doctor, and even I would assume this works towards psychology as well, that when you go in and you're a female, you are treated differently. And I think that can also lead to autistic women not getting diagnosed because there's different expectations that they're looking for from you than they would if a male walked in. Right. And things are starting to get better, though. I think we are headed in the right direction, but it takes time. Yeah. It takes time to get there. Yeah. And, I know that I've always been kind of walled off in relationships. I don't like being hurt. I have some, parent things. We moved around, like I said, a lot as a kid. So I wanted to be liked. And I just, that's always been something. And as I've gotten older, I've had to say to myself, how much do I really care? Mm-hmm. Because I just want to be okay. I just want to be happy.
Some of that comes with age, too.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, you start to care a little bit less when you get older. I think that...
Can't wait till I'm super old and don't have to care about anything anymore. It'll be so
someday,
refreshing.
When I don't have to shave my legs again and I can be like, whatever. Mm-hmm. We are upper 30s.
Yeah.
We're going to say high-end 30s.
Yeah.
So
God, that's depressing. But yeah. We've known each other for, what do we figure, 17-ish years?
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. Yeah, we're a little bit older than you. But, we can't say exactly because then, everyone would know when we turned 40, and that's not okay. Yeah. Only my husband can know that. Right. No, and I've been married, like I said, to an autistic man.
That was the guess.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Anyway, we're a little older than that, but for 15 years. So I think that it took me even a while we were still pretty young when we got married, to come in and like really feel okay being who I was. But it took a concerted effort when we started dating to just say, okay, I'm not gonna like pretend I'm somebody else. I think that sometimes it does take extra effort to go in being authentic for anybody. That just is, we all have like the people we present ourselves as a little bit. Like, I think even neurotypical people have a masking that they do at the beginning of relationships. And as you get older,
present their best self at the beginning.
Right. Like, Like, you know, I'm secretly not somebody who shaves their legs every day, as my husband has learned. But when we were dating, you wouldn't have known that. Mm-hmm. But maybe that was just my kindness. And good thing he didn't care. He's like, whatever. That is also a really good thing about being married to somebody who is on the spectrum, is that when things don't bother him and he's like, doesn't bother me, like, I believe him. I'm like, he's not just saying that because it's the right thing to say.
Sure.
Oh, it's nice having that, like, trust in what he's saying to me, which you can't always get in a relationship.
That's true.
You know? So, does anybody have any questions? We can go back to
also, if anyone doesn't shave, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Oh, no. It's personal preference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We are of a generation where that's kind of expected.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I see that the younger people aren't doing that as much anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I could not go that route personally, but y'all do y'all. What makes you comfortable.
Right. You're the only one who wants to live in your skin. So you need to be happy in that skin.
That was absolutely a thing.
You don't come out of your mom or parental unit, or however they decide or want to be called, and decide how much hair you get or what color it's going to be.
I would have made some different choices if we could do
wouldn't
that.
we all? Like, if we could make those decisions, it would be easier, but we can't. So we need to not judge each other on things that we physically can't change about us to the point where you're worried and feeling bad about how you present to somebody else. Back to, isn't that all part of rejection? I've always been very worried, like, that I'd be rejected in a physical sense, by people. And I think a lot of people
keep your stomach sucked in at all times. Oh my god! Even when I watch the playback of these to try to see what I'm doing wrong.
So mean to yourself.
I know.
Okay, so we were talking about being rejected becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, where some people are so worried about rejection that they create it to themselves. And I do know that happens everywhere. I don't know what is going on here. If you could help with that, explaining it to me, that would be helpful. Anyway.
Yeah,
So, signs of rejection-sensitive dysphoria. So, everybody probably has a little pinch of this, unless you're a narcissist, in which case, if you are clinically diagnosed narcissist, you probably find ways to negate any kind of rejection to not being your fault. But anybody else, these are your symptoms.
We do know one of those people.
Being easily embarrassed or ashamed, having an emotional outburst, and getting angry when you feel rejected. Do you feel like you shut down, or you melt down, I guess? Like, do you have an angry outburst?
I know we haven't quite got to meltdowns yet. No. I mostly internalize my meltdowns, which I think is what leads to burnout for me. It won't take a whole lot for me to start spiraling if I have been actually rejected or feel like I've been rejected, whether I like the person or not. Like, a couple months ago, I was in a Facebook group, and I, in retrospect, perhaps didn't explain my point as well as I could have, but I did apologize repeatedly and try to clarify what I was saying. And the people in the group just wanted none of it and were just, screaming at me that I was endorsing rape, which I absolutely was not. And these were just some shitty internet people, but I was still really bummed out for a week and felt like I was a horrible person, even though I know I'm not. And I know what I was trying to explain, and I did re-explain it, and I apologized and tried to explain I didn't mean it the way you guys are very clearly taking it. Here's what I was trying to say. And then I was like, well, do I mention that I'm on the spectrum, so I don't always communicate the best? But I didn't want that to be seen as an excuse, because I never want my autism to be an excuse. I always feel like that's something that I need to compensate for, and that needs to be all on me, which is not true, probably.
It's not, because I think that...
But I didn't want it to be a cop-out of...
I want to say, I respect that understanding of not wanting to be but I have...
Right, because I didn't, I don't know these people, and they already were not taking anything I was saying in good faith. despite repeated apologies.
Correct. And I think in that
So that
situation, nothing that you would have said or done would have mattered.
Yeah, I just left the group for my own mental health.
I do think that, you have to, like, look at it and say, would these people understand? Because there is reasoning behind something, and then there's making excuses. And I think when it comes out like wrong and you're saying, I'm sorry, I didn't use the right terms, I didn't say it correctly.
Right.
To me, that's legitimate. Oh, well, I have autism, so I didn't say it right, if that makes sense.
Right.
But you're not saying everything you say, oh, well, I don't care. I think it becomes an excuse if you were saying, I don't care that I hurt somebody.
Right.
I have autism and I don't say this right.
Right.
You're still culpable for what you say hurting people, no matter what is wrong. Like, if you have something different about you, there's still repercussions for what you say, but you can tell people what's going on so they have a better understanding while you're trying to maybe make up for it, fix it, something like that. Because we all mess up.
Right. And if it was in real life, I may actually, so before my current boss, it was the same job, but I used to be part of a sub-department of a different department than where I am now. So I had a difficult relationship with my previous boss. I have trouble. I'll feel like I'm building a good rapport with someone, but then it turns out not. I thought, like, I will think that I have, like, a friendship with someone or, like, a joking relationship, and then it turns out, no, they hate me. Really, yeah. So I had said something to my boss, like, jokingly, and she, like, took it super seriously and, like, threatened to write me up. And so I just, like, went back to my desk and was, like, crying for hours. And, like, I hadn't told her that I was autistic at that point, but I was like, I'm a very hard worker. I always try to overcompensate. Anyone that knows me knows that I try to do at least 1.5, if not 2 times the productivity that's expected.
Like a crazy person.
My current average is insane. I also expect myself to, like, have no errors, and, like, I set an impossible standard for myself because I'm
actually
insane.
The next thing
Is
it says, setting impossibly high standards for themselves.
Yes, I totally do that.
And yes, and I keep telling you, like, at a certain point,
I need to chill with that shit.
You need to. You can't keep beating yourself, because there becomes a point where now you have stressed yourself out to the point where it's not worth what you're doing. Right.
But yeah, so I did end up telling my boss that I was autistic. Like, I printed out an art. I was very newly diagnosed, and I was still having a lot of trouble coping with it, getting my head wrapped around it, learning about myself, because I wasn't diagnosed till I was in my early 30s. But, like, I had printed out an article on autism and, like, highlighted all the parts that applied to me, and, like, I'm sure I still, like, had obviously been crying. Like, went up to her desk and I'm like, I'm so sorry that what I said offended you. I thought that we had this relationship that we very clearly don't. And I had handed her the article I think I had actually emailed her, so I was too scared to go up to her. But we did end up talking about it eventually, and she did apologize and, like, start taking me in good faith to a degree. Yeah. Though when we transferred to our new boss in our new department, my new boss is amazing, by the way. I love her so much. But I was like,
she says, because maybe she'll watch this. I
hope she does. I love her. No, she knows that I love her. I tell her that all the time. She's the best. Yeah. The whole department loves her. Like, she's spectacular. No, I'm just teasing. But anyways, so with my old boss, I was like, I was working for her when I was diagnosed. So, like, that was the only boss autism interaction I had had. And I'm like, when we moved to the new department, like, at what point should I tell my new boss? Because I don't want to wait until it's at the point where I say something that I shouldn't have and I'm getting in trouble again. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want that to be the point when I tell them. Yeah. And she said that I should just keep it a secret and not tell anyone.
Which one? You should clarify.
old boss said that I should just keep it a secret and not tell anyone. Also, we were, around that time we had merged with a larger health system, and I was starting to work more with those people. And I was like, is there a point, you know, as I'm having more interactions with management, should I at some point tell them? And my boss was like, no, I don't think you should tell them. So I was like, you know what? I can't live masking my whole life. Like, I have done this for 30 something years, and it's not a good time. Yeah. So the first day on this new job with this new boss, I was like, hey, do you have a minute? I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm autistic and here's what this means. And like, she was so cool and so supportive. And it's been like night and day.
About the stuff, impossibly high standards.
Yes.
With your boss and stuff too. I have a little bit of issue with that with my husband. We live in a house. This house is very old, almost 100 years old. And the previous owners thought they were super handy, and they were not. And so therefore, when we start to do projects, my husband is like, this is how it has to be done. This is how you do it. It needs to be perfect, right? Mm-hmm. But we live in an old house that was done very poorly in some ways by our past people. So you can't always have that. And sometimes there are disagreements, sometimes arguments about how to handle things because it is not perfect. We just can't, it's not possible to do that in a situation where you're dealing with someone else's mistakes and age. And so that can be a challenge to be okay not having it be the way you want. Okay. So Moira asks, when your boss says, how much is appropriate to do of this task? And you use your goals and other people struggle to meet them. Is that impossibly high?
I feel like I'm getting called out in this next comment.
Because I know this one person who destroys the bell curve for others in their tasks by being 2 people instead of 1.
It's my goal to crush bell curves.
Yeah, but the thing is other people exist in a world
I know,
where you cannot do that to them.
I've been told not to hold anyone to my standards, and I'm only to compete with myself.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is you can't keep beating yourself. So you can say...
You want to bet? Because I crushed records the past 2 months and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, except the thing is that at what point are you hurting yourself?
I know.
By having those. Because you want to know what happens next? The big things. Burnout.
I know.
Do you really want to get to the point with those impossibly high standards where you either melt down or burn out, which we will talk about shortly. Let me finish the rest of these. Experiencing low self-esteem. Because if you have impossibly high standards, how can anybody meet them? Okay, hold on. I got to answer this. Read the next one.
Okay.
It's the kiddo.
Feeling anxious, especially in social settings. Definitely check that box, as it sounds like a lot of us do, as we were all hiding alone in assorted corners of the playground.
Right.
If we had all been on the same playground, we could have doubled up in corners because there's so many of us.
Yes, and
we could have had friends.
That's the thing. In social settings, either you're masking or you're hiding. You're masking or you're hiding. You're by yourself.
Yeah.
Having issues with relationships. We were talking about that, having those issues, not being yourself or closing yourself off to not get hurt. If it's not a disease, what is it? A virus? It is not a virus. It is a difference in your brain structure and chemistry, which most likely is genetically, is a genetic change.
Most likely.
They have not pinpointed exact chromosomes, so we can't say for sure. But there's such a strong correlation within families that the mutations are probably just a matter of time. And so it's not a virus because it's not contagious.
It's not viral.
There's nothing about it that's viral. It is a change in how your brain functions and the brain chemistry around how that brain functions. Okay.
Yeah, we do have
I don't
someone
know.
muting the trolls. So.
I don't know what the second message was. I'm a little curious now. My mod was too quick. Yeah. We're just on fire for the trolls tonight, you guys.
Guess.
I'm so sorry. You guys being serious. You know what, though?
But
maybe
they're all
somebody,
currently muted, so...
like, maybe a little bit will get in their head, and it's not fun if we don't freak out.
That's true.
If we just give them facts, it's boring. It's boring to troll people who are just like, here it is.
True.
Because you see him trolling.
Right?
Him trolling.
Oh, yeah, that was
definitely
in my head, yeah.
Yeah. Avoiding social situations. I can't.
Yes. They're scary. I can't. No one's going to like me, so why bother? See, that's why I like dance. That's my social thing, and
but
I
that's
try
so
really...
social. It's
I know,
so social.
I
don't understand how you can have both.
Okay.
Those.
So,
explain.
Okay, so that works because it's a limited, structured social thing.
Okay.
You only have to be social with one person for 3 to 4 minutes, and you're not really expected to talk. And if you've taken a shit ton of lessons, you're a pretty decent dancer. You may be better than them. If you're not better than them, at least you can hold your own. Because I do take a lot of lessons too.
Not verbal. That's true.
So yeah, I like it because it's a structured social settings are better. Like I would prefer, unless it was people that I was really close with, like a game night as opposed to like just random hangout. Okay. Because then there's structure. I know what's expected of me.
Okay.
And with dance, with lead and follow, because I know how to follow, I know what's expected of me, so it's not as scary. Because I know how to react.
And the communication is physical, like that you can have a physical connection, which I feel like was a huge thing for my husband and I, because like I said, we met at a dance. We're both dancers.
That's how I met both of them.
Yep. And then we met Amber. Is because if you can start learn how to lead and follow, and you learn how to communicate with your body, even though that's a physical communication, you understand that communication exists, that there's a way to do it. Even if it's not a traditional communication, it's there. And I always think couples should learn how to dance. Even they don't need to be great at it, but it's just this other way of communicating and feeling what the other person is feeling. And for me, it's good because I tend to be very bossy. I don't know if anyone's picked up on that. And
I'm sure they haven't.
I'm so bossy.
Which is helpful because Brian and I need that structure in our lives.
Right, which is super good for me because I'm like, hell yeah, I'll tell you what to do.
It works very well for us.
You just tell me what you need. I'll give you all the answers. So, but for those moments, Brian can be in charge, my husband. And it's also okay. And it does not hurt that he is an amazing dancer.
He really is.
It makes you want to vomit. He's so good. And he makes you feel incredibly special. And so I know that he's capable of those things. So even though we don't always communicate, or he'll say something that hurts my feelings, I know he doesn't mean it, and that he does care, and he has a very caring way about him in a physical sense, not always an emotional sense, which can be different. So it seems like structured social situations are the way to go.
Absolutely.
So structured social situations, what do you guys like? We talked about dance.
Dance is good. Board games are good.
Okay. You don't video game, so yeah.
I don't. Well,
now
Shane got me into VR, so I do that now because I'm now a cool teen that can do things like that.
Oh, okay. Learning about autism, yes, and how to live with it. True. Yes. I am very sorry. Yep. Okay. Craft nights. Ooh, crafty.
Yeah. I'm
not crafty.
Oh, no. Okay.
You can see all
she bought masks that you made. Okay, so yeah.
I know.
She knows.
But also, this is my craft room with all of my things. So.
Yeah. So anything where there's structure, where it's not just and if it's someone that I'm really close with, they're like, hey, want to hang out? Cool. Because we have an established friendship. But if it's newer people or a big group, if there's some sort of rules, some sort of some sort of expectations, that helps,
right?
Because then I know a little bit what to expect, and it's not as scary.
Yeah, We were talking about avoiding those social situations and other people. And, feeling like a failure because they haven't lived up to others' expectations.
All the time.
And the big one, which I guess a little bit of a content warning, thinking about hurting yourselves after experiencing rejection. So
That I don't think I do.
Okay.
I'm sure there are people that do, but that's not a...
I wonder
not a thing that I personally experience.
If it's the same people who use pain to dull the emotional pain they feel, if they use physical pain to like dull that.
It.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it has that overlap, because I do know that some people who have anxiety or are autistic or have, a variation of different brain chemistries find that physical pain can ground them if they're dealing with emotional pain. But of course, that's not everybody. I said, what about being with a group and then thinking, no one will miss me if I'm gone. No one will be different in their lives if I hadn't been here. I think that
fit in there.
That definitely fits in. I think it's the same kind of idea that you feel so outside from everyone else that it's like, does it really matter?
Yeah.
You start to get that. And even if you're not causing physical harm, I think it's still the same idea, that same concept.
Yeah.
And the thing that I would say is that that's not true for any of you.
Well, true.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy. I even have those kinds of thoughts personally because I have a disability that's a chronic pain issue. So I can't act and do what I want to do. So I start to feel like maybe I'd be I'm such a burden. Like things would be easier if I wasn't here to be that burden.
You know how much we would all fall apart if you weren't here?
But isn't that
we
true
would
of all
be a
of us?
disaster.
But
you weren't the glue
I feel
holding
the
us all
same way
together.
about you guys. It's like, that we could just go back to this, that, we all see our own shortcomings.
Sure.
Yeah. Are you burned? I've told relationships I wanted them to end if I went blind. Okay. Them to end it. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I think all of us have far more impact on everyone around us than we realize.
That's true.
And it's so easy to get bogged down with our own shit that we don't realize that other people around us really give a shit.
That's true.
In the frame.
I'm sorry.
It was little, so I didn't notice all the entirely. And then
I told you I tend to drift.
That's okay. So, and of course, I do deem all of that as self-harm thinking, if, even if you're not physically hurting yourself. And as we talk about all of these deep, kind of rejections, those lead us to, if this kind of leads you down the rabbit hole, to meltdowns and burnouts.
Yeah.
So, which one do you want to tackle first?
I think we should start with meltdowns because they tend to be shorter, more acute type things.
Yeah. I have a personal thing. Yeah.
Yeah. See, sitting still isn't possible, and I'm in a chair with wheels, and I have little legs, and I drifted.
Yeah. I mean,
so thank you for retethering me.
Yeah, I'll just bring you on in. I mean,
yeah,
I do it too because I can't sit in one spot too long. So.
Yeah. So meltdowns. That would be a more. I really should have looked up definitions of these.
Oh, we can do that.
But
yeah,
a meltdown would be more when there's like an intensely perceived traumatic, stressful thing going on. A lot of like the stereotypical thing you see is the kid who's like screaming and
almost like a tantrum.
Yeah, like a tantrum, but like really intense. I tend to mostly internalize mine, especially as an adult, just because I've always been, the quiet, shy kid in the corner. I don't want attention drawn to me. So when I'm really acutely upset, I tend to more shut down than act out, generally speaking.
Which is the more burnout can be if that extends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
meltdown's more an acute thing that's to a specific thing that's happening right now, and burnout is more of an extended, long-term shutdown.
I also feel like a
like
meltdown,
depression.
some people, it's when they get really angry and frustrated and they just like, ugh, even if it's just kind of an enraged sense or finding a reason to yell at somebody or taking it out, whether it's, on yourself like you do, like we had talked about a little bit with the stimming, those little pain type things.
Yeah.
If you're not outwardly screaming, you're doing something either internally or looking for a way to release that pent up energy and frustration.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody experiences it. Seems like meltdowns are more something that happens and that we talk about with younger people.
They at least seem more dramatic with younger people.
Yeah.
I would think older people either tend to more internalize it or have learned to cope better.
Yeah. Or drink. I don't know if that...
Alcohol.
Or something, like... Do we then use chemicals to make it right, almost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
a different tantrum.
4-year-long fucking meltdown there.
Yeah, well, I mean, narcissistic meltdown is an idea.
True.
Yeah, so I do think that I tend to notice in adults more the burnout.
Yeah.
Because I think you tend to, like, internalize for so long that you just can't. And I was actually having a heart-to-heart with my husband last night because of what I view as a burnout issue. Yeah.
I gotta run to the bathroom real quick.
Okay. It's that absinthe, I tell you.
I know.
No, you're okay. You're okay. No. So, yeah, I could see that meltdowns that you, like, could hold off, maybe, like, Valkyrie, like, if you can keep it together until you get somewhere that's safe. When maybe you were younger, that didn't matter as much. And as we get older, we become taught that that's not appropriate in a public place. So you can go home and maybe yell or scream or hit something or throw something or any of that to kind of deal with any of that pent up frustration from it. Let me see. They were talking about it's just overly anxious or overwhelmed. So the only coping mechanism is considered a meltdown. So a burnout, though, use my nice keyboard here on Spectrum News. So I was reading this to my husband because I think that he is currently a little bit in the middle of burnout. And I talked to him about discussing that on stream tonight. But recently, you're
Beck, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Oh, bladder the size of an acorn, I swear.
I know. Yeah, as a mom, I can just keep that forever. It goes back up into my kidneys or something. You just get used to it. So, as I was saying, I was talking to my husband about burnout yesterday. So recently, he was diagnosed with a spot of melanoma on his back. And of course, the stress from dealing with that, he just didn't want to do anything. Okay, and we were waiting for a long time with insurance and getting tests done to find out if it had spread or not. And his response and how he was handling it was like, I'm just gonna sit here and play a video game. And that's it. Mm-hmm. And that's all he wants to do. And so I was reading to him about what burnout is, because I think that is basically what he is using to try and cope. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I don't know if there's even a way to get out of it. Where it says for burnout, I think as we grow up through 12th grade or even sometimes college, we always have deadlines to get things done, then they're over. We have a finite workload to accomplish. Yep. This carries over to some jobs. Finite work, finish the lawn, finish moving a pile of rocks, finish throwing a pile of paper. But when jobs get to be more always on. We feel like we can't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
Because you always need to have, like, the same level of existence, I guess. You know,
Sure.
that there's not the slowdown.
You can't ever get caught up.
Yeah.
Like at my job, there's always income. There's never going to be a time where we're caught up and it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But then, too, if you always have the same at home, like I was wondering if it makes it worse because when you're, at home, if you have things, I keep using this keyboard wrong. Sorry. Then if you can go home and not worry about it, does that help? Like if you have less to do at home, or is it the same regardless?
Like worrying about work stuff when you're at home, or worrying about home stuff at home?
Like, do you always, if you always have stuff to do, regardless of where you are, does that make it worse? Or are you able to, like, separate out, like, work stress from
I neglect home stuff a lot more than work stuff.
Okay.
Work stuff, I never slack on.
Hi,
Home
Tiger.
stuff, like, unless someone is coming over or something, like, please give me a heads up before you come over, because I'm gonna need to clean.
Well, they'll just want to see
Which
your
is
cats.
probably true of most people. Yeah, that's true. I'll just wave a kitten in front. A very fat kitten.
Sausage kitten. Yeah.
My babies are 10 pounds now, and neither of them are a year old.
So you push harder and harder. Yeah, you set those high standards
Yep.
to go from waiting for work to work waiting for you, drive some people crazy. Yeah, and imagine, let's say, that you live with me.
That's the dream.
No, it's really not. Because I always have a list of things to do, and handling those list of things to do that happen in home life, I know can be a challenge. And we have had to negotiate that over time, my husband and I, because I used to get really frustrated that stuff wasn't getting done because I could visually see it and be like, why aren't you doing that? Mm-hmm. But he wouldn't notice. So we do sometimes have a list kind of idea. This is Tiger. This is another one of our 5
we've got
cats.
Everybody but Fen has been on camera now.
Yeah, but he doesn't like social situations.
We're just missing the orange boys.
Yep, this is Tiger.
Is this facing to the camera at all? I can't.
A little bit, yeah.
He doesn't usually sit on my lap. It's pretty exciting.
How's he
for
at
me.
golf? Not very good, but he loves being outside.
Oh, yes. Yes, he does.
Yeah, we're thinking about getting him a GPS tracker. And
That might not be a bad idea. You know,
yeah, you have to get like a subscription though.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get it. It's like $10 a month. But he did run off and then was very sad that other people didn't give him food and pets while he was outside.
Poor baby.
But then he came home and got food and pets and was ready to go back out. Like, no, I keep track of my house.
Yep.
So, autistic burnout is the intense physical, mental, or emotional exhaustion, often accompanied by a loss of skills that some adults with autism experience. Many autistic people say it results mainly from the cumulative effect of having to navigate a world that is designed for neurotypical people. Burnout may especially affect autistic adults who have strong cognitive and language abilities and are working or going to school with neurotypical people. So,
That sounds like at least several of us in the chat.
is it true?
Remember we talked about questions last week and how we're exhausted all the time?
Yeah, I read this, like I said to my husband last night, and I said, I think this is what you're going through. Because it's the case that at a certain point, it's almost like a breaking point, I feel like, but instead of being at a breaking point and losing your shit and like going on a rampage as some people do, you just stop doing anything.
Yeah,
and
you just kind of sink into depression. So I know before I was diagnosed with autism, I had been diagnosed with depression since at least high school. I felt it had gone back to at least preschool, though with further retrospect and a different lens, it was all autism. But I always just thought I was clinically depressed because I was, I think looking back now, just in a constant state of burnout. and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know I was autistic. I didn't know my triggers. I have a lot of sensory issues that I wasn't acutely aware of, that they existed or how to deal with them. So yeah, for me, burnout, just being in constant burnout for decades, I just thought it was depression. And then after I got diagnosed and started to get a handle on my triggers and my sensory issues and how to think about it, then I've been able to manage it. And I've been off antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds for several years now. And that's not the right choice for everybody. That's just how it worked out for me. It turned out it wasn't a chemical imbalance based depression, really, because I mean the antidepressants help. They didn't fix
but you also got yourself out of some really stressful situations. I feel like that did have a lot to do with it.
Sure.
You know, she's like, so if you have an autistic burnout, does rest and sleep help, or do you have to do something else? And this is my big question: is I think rest helps, but what all the professionals say is to get away from anything that's triggering you. But what if you can't escape those triggers?
That
what
gets
if
real hard.
life is triggering? Like I was talking about with my husband with a cancer diagnosis. Yes, it may not be that bad, but it's still a cancer diagnosis that you have to have. You can't get away from that stress and anxiety and that feeling.
Right.
So how does one deal with overcoming something like that?
Kind of do the best you can. I mean, yeah, because I mean, you can't just wave a magic wand to make that go away.
No, but it's the same, like, if you have a sensory house that has a lot of sensory things going on, but you can't just walk outside every time, let's say.
Right.
So then how do you handle when you can't get away from your wife and dog, let's say?
Right. Yeah, because I was miserable for years. It was too much sensory everything, and it was awful.
So is there a way that, like what I was saying, that you could have been able to get better in that situation? Or was the biggest, I mean, I know the biggest thing is to step away if you're really that unhappy, but how do you handle it if you can't?
Well, stimming is one thing. I mean, that's one coping mechanism. You know, there isn't ever going to be like an easy or a one-size-fits-all answer. I know for me, pre-pandemic, obviously, dancing helped a lot. And I know there were times where I would like be in burnout or feel really just down and I didn't want to dance, but I knew there was a dance that night. So then I would make like a bargain with myself, or like if I was having social anxiety issues that were flaring, I'd be like, okay, you need to go. And you need to stay for X amount of time, like say half an hour, or whatever. And then if you still feel like shit, you have permission to leave, but at least you know you tried. You know, so I would make like little mini goals like that for me. And a lot of times the vast majority of the time, I would go and I would end up staying the whole night.
Okay.
I just needed to be able to push myself to kind of get going in that direction. Because usually the nights that I didn't want to go were the nights that I needed that the most. Because that is something that helps me unwind. And with dance, that's the time where I don't have to think. I just have to feel. I don't have to use my brain. I mean, I have to use my brain like in between dance, you know, in between songs. Yeah. Or if I'm, but you know, for those times where I'm on the dance floor, unless you're with a talker,
AKA me.
But
I did too.
Different. But yeah. But if I was able to just dance, you know, I didn't have to think. I could just feel. I could just kind of relax, let someone else be in charge. That's one thing I really like about following. Because in real life, I tend to be very in charge. I'm very fussy about things, as people that know me can tell you.
A little fussy later. But anyway, you're asking for a burnout. And the thing is, the kind of burnout that you're headed towards is the really bad, really long kind of burnout. And I think that is a problem.
My boss does make me take days off sometimes now.
Yeah, but you shouldn't ever get to that point.
I know, but I always feel guilty about asking for vacation days, even though I have like a couple months saved up.
Yeah.
I know.
At what point do you create a signal to yourself that says, wow, it's bad when other people need to tell me to take care of myself. Okay, imagine.
I don't know.
What would you say if that was me?
Okay, I'd probably be yelling the same shit at you. Because I probably have before.
You know, and I think that we all, everybody in this chat, because it's only the people that we know here right now, we all should have the same expectations for ourselves that we do for others, which means if you think other people, it's okay that they don't get back to you for an hour, why are you different? If it's okay that that person, you know, said something weird, then it's okay if you said something weird. No, you're not different. Not in the bad ways. It's the stuff that we give others so much leeway and want them to be so much better to themselves, and we don't do those things for us. You know, I'd be like, you know, we need to all be treating ourselves like we would treat our child or our best friend, like how we would want them to treat them and us and each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's not even about, like, me taking your burdens, but, like, you wouldn't want me to burden myself with the stress that I would be putting on myself for this. Yeah. So why is that stress okay for you to take on?
Because I'm bad at social stuff, so that's how I make up for it.
I'm bad at physical stuff, so because so I can't lift anything over 10 pounds, so that means that I should therefore suffer the emotional consequences of having to check every email every minute of every day.
But if I say that, then you're going to turn it around on me.
Yeah, because you know that you wouldn't have that expectation.
Because you're always right.
For anybody but yourself. And why do we have those expectations for ourselves? We need to learn.
Because I don't feel like I'm good enough. And if I can just do these things that I'm really good at and do them excessively, then people won't notice that I'm bad at other things.
Let me look at what causes burnout. Cumulative effect of having to navigate a world is dying for neurotypical people. So you were saying that because, you know, you're different and you're also navigating a world that wasn't made for your brain type.
Right.
You then also need to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
Why?
To make up for it.
But why is what you are not valid?
I mean, the neurotypical world isn't looking to... I'm sorry.
So you can see the kitty. Because he's so happy.
That's true. I know this is probably the longest he's ever sat on my lap.
That's probably because my kid locked him out of their room.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because he's like usually not even on this floor.
Yeah. He's usually upstairs with the kid. Yeah, I can see a lot of autistic people try and compensate for something that they don't need to compensate for.
I know, but it's like the neurotypical people aren't, like, generally speaking, trying to meet us halfway. So it's like if we ever want to have any chance at getting anywhere, we have to work insanely hard to, like,
but how does
try to make up for that shit, which still doesn't work. They still don't want to hang out with us. I mean, you do. You're different. But
also you're punishing yourself at work for something that has nothing to do with that.
I know.
Yeah. And I think we all need that self-care.
But it's like if I can prove that I'm good at this one thing, then it doesn't matter as much that I'm bad at the other.
You've already proven it numerous months in a row. Can we pull up those bell curves again, right? I mean, they're insane. Like, you can't, if nobody can live up to your standard.
I got Myra to send me my scores and I have them taped on my cubicle wall.
Don't send her scores anymore.
Please do. I love it.
No, it's become your addiction. You're addicted to this. You're addicted to trying to up yourself. No. Yeah. Well, you know, and you could be good at something without torturing yourself. And I feel like you're reaching a point where you're torturing yourself.
You know how much I don't pay attention when I'm at work too, though.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it.
So, like, I'm not, like, only working.
No,
like,
I don't care.
But then I feel guilty and then I try hard.
But also I feel like you say that because the world isn't made for you and we're not meeting you halfway, then I feel like what we need to do is use that energy and that effort to getting people to understand what halfway is. Rather than, if you could use that type of energy to put it out there to help people know what halfway is, because I think that happens.
True.
People care, they just don't know what to do. We're taught how to deal with maybe autistic kids.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing out there for adults.
But we aren't used to.
Which is hard.
Yeah. I often wonder if, yes, you comparing yourself to you is actually worse.
Because I can't compete with any. Actually, a lot of my team's been doing really good. I'm really excited. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to have to actually work because they're all doing really good.
You are doing enough. Tiger says you are doing enough. You pet me.
We're not doing enough until we're caught up. But we're not caught up.
You will never be caught up. You don't live in a world that exists in caught up.
That's true.
Okay, and
we did get caught up for a little bit during the
pandemic. This is the thing. This is what my husband lives with, is he says something, and then I'm like, but you need to treat yourself as good as you want me to treat me. And that's the thing, is we all have expectations for ourselves. But it seems like some people with autism, some autistic people, don't understand where the line is where it becomes self-harm. Sure. Instead of, that there's a lot of social pressure. I think that causes us to mask and compensate, and it's not healthy to do it, though. Yeah. Not that it's healthy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's hard to navigate, though, because,
it is.
It's not healthy, but what else are we going to do?
But if you have all those social pressures, right, and you need to learn and educate and get yourself and think about, let's just say you mask constantly. Mm-hmm. Why, in addition to that, do you feel the need to put the pressure on yourself to be better at everything?
Because
I guess we could just.
What if that mask slips and they see that I'm just pretending to socially know what I'm doing, and I need to have this strong backup proof of my worth, because when I inevitably say something wrong, then I have something to fall back on and be like, well, okay, clearly I'm very bad at talking, but look at this giant pile of work I did. Please don't fire me, because I am a valid, good worker.
Right. Everyone is pretending about something. There's nobody out there who doesn't have something that they're hiding or want to pretend doesn't exist. Okay? I think that, everybody has something that they are insecure about, that they think, oh, no one will want to deal. We are all pretending about something. And I think that that's important to know. And there's such a big difference between always trying to do a better job than yourself and doing a good job overall.
Sure.
Because I feel like, over here's a good job and down here is a worse job. Mm-hmm. You are here, and then you're but I need to be up here. And all this is just stress.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have something to strive for, though. And I don't always get there, and that's
But you should be striving for better in your personal life, becoming a better you, not a more efficient work
machine.
Robot. But
I'm so good at being an efficient work robot. I tried socializing briefly.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. There's always, I think imposter syndrome can be big, self-blame. I think that there's so much of this. And I know it's something to hold on to and feel good at, but you are such a valid person in all of your personhood.
I suppose.
And the thing,
But this is a This is a measurable thing.
Okay, so then my
question... put this on paper and I can say, hey, here's the thing I'm really good at and here's proof. Okay. I can't do that with socializing. I can't do that with, like, friendship or relationships. Like, there's not a metric with that.
Okay, so I have a question for you. With that in mind, I don't work. I have no measurable success.
Have you seen your house and your family?
Like, have you seen my house? It's a mess. So where am I valid? Am I still valid because I don't have a measurable amount of success because I'm disabled?
Damn you. Because you know you are.
Oh, I know I am, but I'm just making a point. You would never have that for anybody else. Is the goal you want for Val, Moira, Amelia to have a measurable amount of success at work and nothing more?
Well, not a nothing more. I think everyone should meet the bare minimum.
Well, there's doing a good job and going to work and doing your best. But yeah, you're more than your work. And at what point do you have to step back and say, okay, I've proven repeatedly over and over that I am a good worker. And you don't have to let that slip to not be putting the same amount of effort into it. Because the thing is that
I'm trying
you need better personal goals than rather you're focusing on work goals.
Well, it's harder in a pandemic. Like, you do personal goals when you can't see people.
No, because it's personal development.
Oh,
personal development. It's to figure out how to automate all the jobs and be the taskmaster with no human interactions. Okay, well, that...
You better still interact with me, though.
And also UBI.
Like, what am I going to do if I don't have you to talk to?
Yeah, you can take over the government as long as you can get, like, some universal benefits.
I vote for
So, yeah, like when you take a week off work and you're more miserable. But the personal,
That was a mistake, but...
Yeah, but we all need to, like... It was a mistake, but not for the reasons that you want to.
No, I had the best of intentions. I thought it was going to be relaxing. I did not know that it was going to send me into Meltdown for other reasons.
Right. And the thing is that is personal growth, learning that kind of stuff, for sure. But personal growth is about learning maybe when you mask or how to relieve stress when you can't do what you've always done. So, maybe you're like, okay, I really want to do dance, but I can't do that. So now what can you do to fill that and have a new goal that doesn't revolve around beating a number at work?
Oh, well, I was going to say I've replaced dance with VR video games.
Mm-hmm. And you're trying to beat numbers?
I'm trying to beat the scores of my friends, and I've gotten very competitive about it. But it's okay. I don't always win.
Yeah, but it's not... That's the problem, is it's not about winning for you. That's not where... some people are very competitive, and they like to win.
Mm-hmm.
You have to beat yourself. You have to do better than something. And that is your problem.
There's some games that never beat Shane in, though. But there's some where I can kick his ass, so it works out.
I'm just going to sit over here.
I know.
I need a kitty facepalm emote.
Standards.
That all of us here can maybe learn that we need to stop holding ourselves to such high standards that we can't function at a certain point because of the high standards that we have.
I think I'm doing okay now.
Yeah?
I think I'm going to be good now that I have my Fridays back. And I can have my
beers. I just mean in general, but I think that you do need to be cautious about the having it be such a big deal to reach a certain point, beat a certain score type of
though right now
at work.
It is easy because there have been some program changes where like everybody's numbers have gone up just because there's been like some changes in the way that we do things that boosts everybody's numbers. So I'm like in a really exciting period right now where like my numbers are really spiking, but so is everybody else's. Everybody like I think went up the least compared to myself.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll take big jumps.
Okay, so what do you have to say to Moira's question? They want to know if you can, how do you handle seeing a meltdown coming and trying to prevent it? I was like,
So, gosh, with a meltdown, I don't really know. That I struggle with more, because that's usually something with an acute trigger. So I would guess like increased stimming and just kind of bracing for impact and trying to keep my shit together. But I know like for burnout, if I'm stuck there, something that has helped me, and I don't know if this will help anyone else, but if I'm really like depressed and upset and in burnout, I will give myself like a set time period to just kind of like be an emo piece of garbage and just like wallow in all like my shitty like self-indulgent bad feelings. Yeah. And usually I'll set it at like a day or two or like a night. And I'll be like, okay, so I really, feel burnout-y and depressed and bad and whatever. So for this day, and if I can line it up with the weekend, that's great. I'm like, I am just like going to be sad and eat garbage and sit in my pajamas and like listen to like I even made like bullshit emo playlist where it's just like all these like whiny teen bullshit songs. So like I'll listen to that, like, and if I have a bad day at work, like I'll listen to that on my way home or when I get home for a while, just over the top whiny stupid shit that's like definitely not in my age range at this point, but just to kind of like over the top kind of get it out. And so I'll make myself a deal, like you can be sad until like if it's Friday night, you can be sad until like through Saturday night. You can just be sad and feel all the bad feelings and whatever, but then Sunday morning you need to get your shit together. You need to get dressed. You need to take a shower. You need to get something accomplished. Yeah. And I find if I give myself that a set time period of wallowing, then I can do all that then. And then I can know that there is going to be an end to it. And I can just indulge in feeling shitty.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It seems like the biggest thing that everybody has recommended is figuring out what is triggering you. And then stepping away from that or finding a way to relieve the type of anxiety that brings. And a lot of times when you're headed towards a meltdown, stimming isn't enough. Right. So you have to, but you can use stimming to
buffer it a
maybe,
little bit.
Yeah, like potentially bring it down a notch or two. But I think the key is to find out what calms you down and, how you can make that work. So let's say you're at a party and it ends up being a ton of people you don't know and it was supposed to be structured, but it wasn't. And you were just stuck on the couch trying to talk to people you didn't know and they were all being like, they would talk to you for a minute and then leave, okay? Which is like a worst case scenario, right? Yeah. So in the moment, you can feel like that social anxiety rising up, right? And you might start stimming when you're there. But let's say people keep doing this and they keep coming back, or they're doing really annoying things and being kind of like loud and gross and awful.
Sure.
What would you do?
Am I allowed to drink at this party? That would
Alcohol and medicating maybe are not the best.
No, not the best.
So it might be an option.
That would be my immediate go-to. I don't know. Leave if I could. Can I leave? Is that an option?
Let's say someone else drove you.
Fuck. I would probably just withdraw and wait for it to be over.
Okay. So let's say, is there a game on your phone that you find relaxing?
Oh yeah, just probably scroll Facebook forever.
Okay. You know, I'm just, yeah, there's Uber. Like I'm saying, if you can think about these stressful situations, you're welcome. I think Uber or Lyft is probably a better option than walking, especially if it's winter. Yeah. I think it's about finding things in any moment that can make you feel better. Start to relax. Have reduced anxiety in the moment.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately you have to find what those things are for yourself. And the only way to avoid a meltdown is to remove yourself from any triggers when you can and find things that relax you if you can't. So, Tiger went sleeping in the hut. Because I think he's going. Yeah. So, thank you guys for coming. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out.